Hundreds of homes across San Antonio aren't just sitting on the market, they're dying. San Antonio ranks among one of the slowest markets in the country in terms of days on market. The average here is now 78 days. And if you're wondering how San Antonio stacks up nationwide against other markets, we need to look at Florida, which has multiple cities that are in that list, including Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and Miami. We're not looking at small towns or secondary markets. We're comparing San Antonio to major cities with millions of residents. Whether you're an investor or a regular home seller, in the next few minutes, I'm going to cover some market information with you that's going to help you capitalize. I analyzed data for the past 12 months for pre-owned single-family homes here in San Antonio. No new build data. We're interested in what you, the regular flipper or homeowner, is going through right now in the market conditions. I focused on listings that sat for 78 days or more, which was the market average, and then I filtered down to only see the failures, meaning properties that were canceled, expired, or withdrawn from sale. The listings I looked at to prepare this video aren't listings that just didn't move quickly, or instances where the seller woke up in the middle of the night and changed their mind and decided not to sell the property. No, these were listings that sat on the market for 78 days and then just didn't sell at all. We started from the city center and we went out 20 miles to get 24,000 listings. Of the 24,000, 13,000 sold and 11,000 failed. That's a 45% failure rate. Instead of asking, where are people selling in San Antonio? We're wondering where the failures are stacking up the most and where are they most likely to happen. Part 1, the saturation zones. These are parts of town where hundreds of homes died on the market. The failure rate might sit just below the city average, but in terms of sheer quantity, these areas are critical danger zones for you as an investor. The top of the list with 441 failed listings is 78253, better known as the Alamo Ranch area. Multiple builders have flooded this zone. D.R. Horton alone offers over 46 floor plans to choose from in this zip code. New construction with builder incentives and rate buydowns directly undercut resale listings, creating basically a race to the bottom. The result? In the last 12 months, there were 748 successful pre-owned home sales, but 441 failures, representing a failure rate of 37%. The average days on market for successful pre-owned home sales in this zip code was 84. Next up, with 416 failures, was zip code 78245. Neighborhoods like Lucky Ranch, Heritage, and Big Country are located out here. This area suffers from an identity crisis. Not quite the hot far west, where there's all this new development going on, and not quite inner city either. There's a pricing confusion between the mixed housing stock of new builds outside of the loop and older home stock inside of the loop. Buyers are brain flooded with the choice between buying new with all the incentives or buying in an older established neighborhood. In the last 12 months, there were 719 successful pre-owned home sales versus 416 failures with a failure rate of 37%. The successful home sales had an average days on market of 82. Third on our list is zip code 78254 with 344 failed listings. Bronze Station, Stillwater, and Wild Horse are some neighborhoods synonymous with this area. Basically, it's located outside Loop 1604 between Culebra and Shanefield Road. The premium pricing expectations no longer match buyer needs in this area, where most homes were built between 2000 and 2015. Between 2020 and 2023, we saw an overbuilding that created a supply problem and competition from higher-end neighborhoods like Stone Oak, leaves 78254 sort of in a no man's land. Too expensive for entry buyers, but not prestigious enough for move-up buyers. The result? 762 successful sales with 344 failed listings with a 31% failure rate. Next up, zip code 78109 with 312 failed listings. This area is better known as Converse, a subcity located here within San Antonio. It's surrounded by active new build construction, and that's a big part of the problem. Pre-owned homes struggle to compete with builder incentives, home warranties, and the move-in ready appeal of a new build home. Having recently gone through flipping a pre-owned home in this area, I can attest to the lack of buyer demand and the cliff fall of prices to the bottom. After receiving 0 offers and minimal showings after 40 days on market, my failed flip ultimately ended up becoming a rental property. Judson ISD's below average school reputation and the long commutes from this area to get into town sort of turned buyers off on this area. The stats on success versus failure for pre-owned homes in the zip code are as follows. 481 successful pre-owned home sales in the last 12 months with an average days on market of 82, 312 failures for a failure rate of 40%. Part 2. The vulnerability zones. Now, let's look at the probability side of things. We're going to look at zip codes where there may not have been as much sales activity or volume, but the probability of failure rate was substantially higher. First, we're going to go into our inner east side. We're going to look at zip codes 78202 and 78203. These zip codes have a special place in my heart for me. I've done some investments in these areas and I actually live in the area. Combined between the two zip codes, we're looking at a total failed listings of 235. Seems low, right? Yeah. Some neighborhoods that you may know in these areas include Dignity Hill and Denver Heights. These areas boomed when investor rates were low. Investors lined up to purchase early 1900s builds and do full gut historical remodels. That fueled gentrification, and that led to property values skyrocketing in the area. But the party's over, and regular home buyers aren't willing to pay premium prices to live in these areas anymore. The total successful pre-owned home sales in the last 12 months was 133, with an average of 103 days on market. That's a 64% failure rate. If that number doesn't shock you, maybe the cash sales will. Guess how many of the 133 successful pre-owned home sales were purchased using cash? 51. That's nearly 40%. What does that tell us? Roughly, maybe only 80 families purchased homes and moved into the area, versus a lot of investor activity, which sort of doesn't make sense. If you're a buy-hold investor, maybe I can understand the logic and the reasoning here for purchasing in the area still. But if you're a flip investor looking to get a quick return, this is not where you want to be. Then if we look in our city center, we have 78201. This area is known for neighborhoods like Woodlawn Lake, Beacon Hill, and LA Heights. 78201 had 211 successful sales, but 295 failures. That puts the failure rate at 58% for this zip code. The successful sales, they sat on market for 78 days before they closed. This is a rough area to be in right now. The takeaway here is, ultimately it seems that San Antonio has really 2 classifications of dead zones. We're looking at areas where there's just a heavy saturation of failed listings because everyone's rushing in to sell at the same time. And we also have areas that we would consider vulnerability areas where there just isn't enough demand. If you're investing in any of the zip codes that I mentioned today in this video, you need to make sure that your numbers on the deal that you're looking at investing into are bulletproof. Be conservative. You're going to want to factor in heavy for seller concessions and holding costs because you're probably going to sit on the market for a long time. But here's the silver lining. If you're a traditional buyer looking for your dream home, this data is going to give you leverage. Essentially, in those zip codes, you know that you're among a small pool of buyers that are looking or open to purchasing in those areas, so you can probably get yourself an amazing deal. Unfortunately, there are greener pastures here in San Antonio. Be sure to subscribe because in the next video I put out, I'm going to showcase the top areas and where you should be targeting for flips.